There's no doubt that Takara targets the Japanese market. They really do cater to Japan, and it almost like they ignore the rest of the world. If you're living somewhere other than Japan, you gotta fight really hard to get the Takara figures, or pay a pretty penny. And it seems like third-party companies actually target everybody in the world. It seems like they treat everyone about the same. Their distribution, yeah, the prices are still kind of expensive for third party, but nowhere near what we see with Takara. But moreover than just price, I'm going to talk to you today about the impact of Takara's neglect on the rest of the world and how it seems that they cater to Japan. It kind of hurts everyone else. We're going to talk about this coming up. So first off, I want to say I'm definitely not talking about the main line. You can see Takara's name is all over all of the studio series, all of the new stuff that Hasbro's putting out, and it's great. In fact, it's the best mainline stuff they have put out ever through Hasbro, and it's Hasbro's distribution, which can be choppy at times, and Takara's engineering creating a massive success at retail. I know they're not perfect, but they're the best we've gotten at retail. So now I'm talking about the Masterpiece line and how Takara acts and treats people outside of Japan when it comes to the Masterpiece line. And most specifically, my biggest problem with this is the distribution and the price. There was a time I would have spared your wretched Transformer budget by distributing them through Hasbro. So Hasbro would use the same exact molds. They would pump out pretty much the exact same figure, but the colors would be a little bit different. What was included would be a little bit different, and it would come over here for half, or yes, 1/3 of the price that would cost us to get them through third-party distributors such as TF Source, Joseph Prime, and all of them. And for me, I waited a year. I would wait a year for Hasbro to bring them over so I could get what I wanted at a better price. Not only that, but we got the coloring right on Starscream in the Walmart edition, and it was a $55 instead of $200. I felt like that was a really good deal. I mean, I think that maybe it was $180 or something if you imported it, but $55 on Walmart's shelf, mass distributed. I was happy with that, and that was a good deal. We don't see those good deals. They don't really exist anymore. Again, a lot of people actually blame this on Toys R Us going away, but Walmart's still there, and there's a whole Target thing we're about to get into. But it really kind of does bother me that there's no attempt by Takara to get their product into consumers' hands in the US market, or the UK market, or Australia, or Canada, or any of these other countries that have a large population of collectors, such as myself, that would buy these things, and not just buy one. If you're giving us a reasonable price, there's no reason not to have one sealed and one opened, right? Or one in both modes, or something like that. It would carry very well over here in the States and other markets other than just Japan. Now, of course, they've always done this with Hasbro. So what they do is double, triple, quadruple their production and make a whole lot more. In fact, if they did that from the get-go, they could have brought the price, this MP44, down from the $450, or I paid the $328, down to a sub $200 price. In fact, they did bring it down to a sub $200 price without a trailer, and that's one of the ways they bring things over. They leave out some expensive options and bring it over as a slim, cheaper version to put in mass retail stores. It's something they could still do, but yet they don't. Now, I'm thinking it's a possibility. What if Hasbro is afraid to deal with the more complex transformations? Now that we've entered a new era of more complex Masterpiece Transformers and complex transformations, there's more chance for things to break, more negative publicity that could attack their company. Of course, this would have to be an entirely on Takara to bring it over here. Could you imagine all of the backlash Hasbro would have to deal with all of the problems that the MP44 had? Well, guess what? Yes, that would be an issue, but if you knock the price from $450 down to $150, then the backlash wouldn't be as bad. If there was an issue with a $150 figure is different than an issue with a $450 figure. I would really say there's a giant missed opportunity, especially in the States and other markets, that if they brought actual Masterpiece over to the US, they could fix this. They could sell so many more. So my next issue with Takara catering to Japan and kind of leaving the rest of the world high and dry, it's just kind of strange how we get stuff like Hot Rod, but it's called Hot Rodimus. And if we get things brought over here in any way, shape, form, or fashion, what do we get? We get like a sleeve to slide over it. So it's not targeting a US market. I'm sure, yes, they're cutting costs for them, but they're not saving price for us when they do those kinds of things, and they're not targeting the US market. I would prefer to have US market targeted stuff. The other thing with targeting, say, the Japanese market is they would make a Star Saver before they make a Galvatron. Now, this is one of those things that really confused me. Like, why are we getting a Star Saver? When Star Saver came out, I had a buddy of mine that lived overseas in Japan for a while, and he really understood the whole Victory Leo and Star Saver, and I got the whole history on that years ago, right before the release of this stuff. My buddy went super in on buying 7 of these things. He loved it. He loves it. He still loves it. But the thing is, that's not for everyone, and that's definitely not for most people outside of Japan. Now, I do appreciate the figure and the concept and all of that, but is this more important than a Galvatron? Well, not to me. I think a Galvatron would have filled this slot much better, and more people would have rather had a Galvatron than a Star Saver. And getting back into the fun, Beast Wars is part of G1 debate only if you live in Japan. In the US, in 1996, when I was watching Beast Wars, nobody in anywhere in the US was like, yep, this is continuing G1. This is like where we left off. It's exactly where we left off from 1988 or 1989. Here we are, just picking it right back up. No, we're not. Now, I do have to admit, the scenes where they kind of just used Optimus Prime and Megatron in there, those were my favorite scenes in all of Beast Wars. Even though it kind of really didn't make sense and it was kind of silly, it was fun, and enjoying that part of Beast Wars, I enjoyed it. But nowhere, no way, shape, or form was this a continuation of G1, or even part of G1 in the US, but yet Takara numbers every single one of their Beast Wars figures as if it was, because maybe it makes sense in Japan. Now, if you think this is a negative rant video, by the way, you're wrong. This video is all about what third party picks up where Takara leaves off, and they cater to everyone. Third party is what kind of saves the Masterpiece line. The Masterpiece line might have shriveled up and dwindled away if it wasn't for the fact that third parties step up and make these figures. But you know what? They don't make them just for Japan. And there's a huge reason why. It's because Fans Toys and X-Transbots, those people have big hearts and they just love us. No, it's not. It's because the third-party figures and the X-Transbots, the Fans Toys, the MMCs, and all of them are not as accepted by the Japanese market as Masterpiece. In fact, they're shunned. When I started doing some research into this RC figure, and I started watching Japanese reviewers, and some of them did speak English, which I thought was great. Like, thanks, because they got it first. I started to get some insight into collectors in Japan. They would not touch any of the other earlier iterations of RC that came from Fans Toys or Toy World or MMC, and I thought that was kind of odd. One of them even explained why he doesn't do third party, and he doesn't do third party because he only sticks with official, and a few other things he said there made me realize it's the whole IP infringement that the entire country seems to have a problem with. If you think that copyright is a big deal in the US, triple it when you go to Japan. So my last point here is kind of a confusing one, but the Japanese market, if you can cater to the Japanese market, heroes sell better than bad guys. So why do we not get a Galvatron? Probably because a hero like Star Saber would sell better than Galvatron. But yes, we're getting the next iteration of a Seeker, not because, oh yeah, let's make a bad guy, because they can sell 12 figures from this exact same mold. So make it once, add a cone to the head and change the color. They can have 12 different versions of this character, and that is why they're making the bad guys. We're getting back to business as usual with a Skids from Takara, but then again, this kind of shatters a little bit of what Takara was doing earlier with only doing main characters and bringing a guy with like 30 seconds worth of screen time. That is very interesting that Takara would even go down that path. All we got is a line drawing. We actually don't have actual prototype shown yet or any of that sort of stuff. But again, going back to the heroes, going back to the good guys, we're going to see predominantly good guys from Takara, and they're going to satisfy, hey, we are making bad guys. We're making 12 of them with the Seekers. In the case of Amazon Japan, a lot of Americans are jumping on this bandwagon, buying from Amazon Japan. And one problem if you buy from Amazon Japan, and say you buy Hound from Amazon Japan, let's say you break your Hound and you have to send it back. Now, I've heard horror stories about this where they had to send their figure back and they had to pay like a gigantic upfront shipping cost. And once it was received by Amazon Japan, it got refunded back to you. I don't know about the process because I didn't do it. I never have. If I get it from Amazon Japan, I just deal with it one way or another. But I feel like there's really no Takara service after the sale. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a way to actually to contact Takara, get your part, get your figure fixed, but I don't know. Third party like Fans Toys and X Transbots is kind of stepping up right now, are superior in that. And in MMC, I've never broken an MMC figure, so I really don't know how theirs would be. But looking at this, it's frustrating, and it feels like if you are not right there in Japan, you're left high and dry. And my thoughts on why Takara gives us the MPM movie Transformers at Target. Why are we getting these things? Well, Hasbro's bringing them over. And, you know, I was kind of thinking the complexity on these, they're complex, but maybe they're not as complex as, say, a Hound. Or maybe they're not as complex as, say, MP44. But still, they are still a pretty complex figure. But they're brought over in very, very small quantities. I don't think the price is the greatest on these. They could do better if they quadrupled the quantity. If they went back to the olden days, of course, Target is probably one of the worst places to have an exclusive. Really, getting it into Walmart would be so much better, but I'd be happy with it if we could bring over the next iteration of Masterpiece through Target. That would be great, and bring them over cheaper than the import price. I would love that. But here's the thing. These movies originated in the US, so they're bringing these to Target in the US. Again, the original G1 toy line and the cartoon that drove the toy line, not the origins of the toys themselves, was a US-based cartoon, and then Japan adapted that from there. Then they took it in their own direction. But, you know, it's kind of strange. Why can't we get the Starscream and the Thundercracker and all of those through Target? So what do you guys think? Have you guys noticed this Takara catering to Japan, kind of leaving the rest of us collectors in the rest of the world high and dry? Have you guys noticed that third party seems to cater to everyone, not just the Japanese market? In fact, everyone else other than Japan more than the Japanese market. And would you like to see Takara on your shelves at Walmart and Target? Or is that a pipe dream that I hold on to for absolutely no reason? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe to Deer Hanger out.